Continuing from the previous episode 735. Is this the moving ruler? Xiao Yan's eyes became dull, because the ancient aura emanating from the golden fighting skill scroll made his body tremble. This is. After a few breaths, Xiao Yan's eyes became surprised, because at this time, the golden scroll had been slowly opened by Xiao Yan, and a few lines of prominent characters slowly appeared in the golden scroll. Moving the ruler of the sky is the ingenuity of the sky, using the ruler as a body, and using the ruler as a living. This technique is my proud work. Cultivation to the end, enough to use force to return force, or to strike the sky. Just a few lines of big characters appeared directly on the golden scroll. What about the cultivation method of fighting skills? Although these lines of characters shocked Xiao Yan, it was obvious that fighting skills were extraordinary, but Xiao Yan frowned. Isn't this golden scroll the treasure of their own palace? Why is it empty? A fighting skill scroll must record this cultivation method. If there is no cultivation method, it will definitely not be kept in this way. And no matter how powerful this fighting skill is, if there is no specific cultivation method, an empty shell will obviously not help at a higher level. This is. Xiao Yan's eyes were focused on the old guard. That meant he was clearly saying, "Are you kidding me all the time?" Cough cough cough. This fighting skill scroll has been like this ever since it appeared in our burning incense pavilion. It's just these few big characters. This is the reason why no one has successfully cultivated for thousands of years. The old guard coughed a few times and then said, "What the hell?" Xiao Yan couldn't help cursing. He came here hard and was tortured. As a result, the old man told himself that writing a scroll of fighting skills was like this. Isn't this an obvious trick? Hey, boy, we didn't lie to you. The cultivation method of this heavenly ruler is specifically on this Do skill scroll. The reason why there is no cultivation method on this Do skill scroll. I'm afraid it is your fate with him. I haven't arrived yet. After all, the pavilion master has personally read the Do skill scroll. The old guard said immediately. Dare to be so sure of the fighting spirit powerhouses. But there is clearly nothing else in this fighting skill scroll. Talking about fate with me. I still don't believe in this evil. Xiao Yan said coldly, but his eyes were fixed on the golden scroll. No, I'm afraid there is a secret in this Do skill scroll. The next moment, Xiao Yan, a dazzling Emperor Yan, suddenly appeared on the palm of his hand, and then without hesitation, he directly burned away at the golden scroll. Ah, boy, what are you doing? Xiao Yan's actions just took action, and the old guard hurriedly shouted. If it were an ordinary person, I am afraid that the old guard would not be like this. But this person is Xiao Yan. Not to mention that Xiao Yan is Zhu Jin's disciple, just the flame power on this kid made me vigilant. If this kid destroys this precious fighting skill scroll, I'm afraid I won't be able to escape. Boom boom boom. Xiao Yan's flame was finally one step faster than the old guard's, and in just one breath, it was wrapped around the golden fighting skill scroll. Boy! The old guard came to Xiao Yan's side, and just wanted to extinguish the flame, but saw a slight change on the golden scroll. Good guy, Xiao Yan couldn't help scolding. My own Emperor Flame is a flame that combines the power of 23 different fires. Although the strange fire is not comparable to the holy flame, it is better than those 23 different attributes. Even this Emperor Flame is extremely powerful. Fear. But where did Xiao Yan think that in the face of such a terrifying power of Emperor Yan, this golden scroll was actually indifferent? At most, there was a slight change in the golden scroll. Flame, how could the flame affect this golden scroll? After the pavilion master came here, I have tried flames, soul power or spiritual power, including some rare methods of poisonous fighting chi, but it didn't work. How can this kid's flame actually make this golden scroll change? The old guard came. When he arrived at Xiao Yan's side, he noticed some changes. Under the burning of Xiao Yan's flame, the few lines of large characters on the golden scroll actually faintly showed signs of melting. Although this change was extremely weak, it was still felt by the old guard who was as powerful as the 9-star Do Emperor. Increase the intensity of the flame, don't stop, it seems that you can really create miracles. The old guard said directly to Xiao Yan the next moment. As Xiao Yan continued to spread out the power of Emperor Yan, at this time Xiao Yan's body was indistinctly squandered a lot of Do Qi. After all, Emperor Yan was very consuming Do Qi. No, this flame is not strong enough. If your flame is stronger, It might be possible, but now it is not possible. The old guard looked at Xiao Yan sweating profusely, and immediately said. The old guard knows that this is almost the limit of Xiao Yan. Hey, you can go back. There are quite a few saint-level fighting skills in this Do skill pavilion. You should go out and find a fighting skill that suits you. Don't think about this treasure of the palace. Since the flame is useful for this fighting skill scroll, I will go back and tell the pavilion master and them to see if they can find a solution. I have to say, you are really surprising. Don't worry, we will definitely give you a chance to cultivate once this fighting skill scroll is resolved. The old guard smiled. Di Yan can't do it. It seems that this Emperor Yan is still a little weaker after all. Xiao Yan shook his head helplessly, then stretched his waist, as if he had decided to do something. Go out quickly, while you still have time, it's enough for you to find another exercise. The old guard hurriedly left here and went out to report this shocking news to the senior management of Fenxiang Pavilion. The problem is that you can also regain your freedom. Haha, senior, don't go in a hurry. I still have a way I haven't tried. How do you know that I can't succeed? Xiao Yan smiled slowly. The old guard was secretly startled. Although he didn't know why, Xiao Yan's smile at this time actually made him feel faintly uneasy. Sheng Yan, come out. Seeing that the old man stopped, Xiao Yan opened his mouth slightly. As Xiao Yan opened his mouth, a khaki yellow holy flame replaced as many as 23 emperor flames on Xiao Yan's body. Immediately, in the entire stone hall, the 8 stone pillars also trembled, and even Xiao Yan's body trembled. The eternal fire, eternal ruler behind him and the golden scroll on the palm all resonated extremely happily. This is the power of holy flame? The next moment, the old guard's pupils shrank tightly, staring at the khaki yellow flame power on Xiao Yan's body as if he were looking at a monster. In that khaki flame, there was a huge force that made him feel uneasy, slowly entrenched, like a dragon ready to go. Go! Xiao Yan didn't hesitate. He used his holy flame power to go towards the golden scroll. And as the power of this holy flame surfaced on the golden scroll, the lines of characters on the golden scroll were like snow meeting the fiery flames and quickly melted away. Guru! A smile appeared on the corner of Xiao Yan's mouth. It seemed that this problem was finally solved, but before Xiao Yan could react, a strange power was scattered from the golden scroll, which directly swallowed Xiao Yan and entered immediately. The golden scroll rolled up automatically, and the khaki-colored holy flame was outside the golden scroll, like a guard. Xinya 81 Zhang Wian Wang U, Kai 8, approximately 1 ZS, Koem, my dear, it seems that this time, there really is an incredible little guy in the hall of people. I have to say, Zhu Jin, you old monster's disciple is also a monster. The old guard was full of smiles. He naturally knew about the scene just now that the golden scroll was successfully deciphered and Xiao Yan was taken to the scroll. I have gone to practice fighting skills in the independent space, so I am not worried. Ask for tickets. End of this chapter. Continuing from the previous episode 736. Humph. What a scroll of moving the sky ruler, but it hides such a mystery. If it hadn't been for Christmas, I'm afraid no one would be able to crack the secret of moving the sky ruler. Xinya 81 Zhang Wian Wang U, Kai 8, approximately 1 ZS, Koem. The pavilion owner of Burning Incense Pavilion should have the power of Sheng Yanzi Fire, but Sheng Yanzi Fire and Sheng Yan are two things after all. The holy flame is too precious. If I didn't get it by chance, I'm afraid I would have missed out on this fighting skill. Xiao Yan said slowly in his heart. Just after Xiao Yan finished speaking, his eyes suddenly lit up. Xiao Yan didn't even have to think about it, he knew that he had arrived, and he had arrived at the independent space in the scroll of the heaven-shifting ruler. The holy rank fighting skill is called the holy rank. The big reason is because the holy rank fighting skill has an independent space. Once the practitioner senses the cultivation method of the fighting skill, they will be led to the independent space. First, it protects the cultivators from being disturbed in their practice, and secondly, it also protects the holy rank fighting skills. After all, if you are observed by others while you are cultivating, some people with extraordinary talents will easily learn it. It's so hot. Just as Xiao Yan opened his eyes, the dazzling sunlight scattered in an instant, and there was an extremely hot breath that followed. Although Xiao Yan had holy flames and strange fires on his body, the heat still made him feel hot. Xiao Yan was slightly surprised. Desert? Just after getting used to the hot and dazzling light here, and after his eyes regained his vision, Xiao Yan immediately glanced around, and then the vast desert that stretched as far as the eye could see, like golden sand, looked extremely dazzling under the sunlight. It's really a big hand. Xiao Yan laughed. According to Xiao Yan's perception, this huge desert is at least bigger than Zan Santian's lonely desert of death. Such a huge handwriting is enough to show the strength of the creator of this fighting skill. According to the memory I just perceived, this method of cultivation should be here. Xiao Yan laughed, and then the dazzling holy flame suddenly condensed in his hand, and struck directly at a certain piece of sky in the desert. Following Xiao Yan's blow like this, a golden phantom slowly appeared in the sky. After waiting for so many years, I finally welcomed someone with a predestined relationship. An old voice sounded from the old man's mouth. Junior Xiao Yan, I have seen Senior Shifting Heaven Ruler. Xiao Yan bowed slowly, facing the phantom in the sky. This phantom is not a real entity, but just a phantom that records the cultivation method of the Heaven Shifting Ruler. Not bad, polite boy. The 35th of the Holy Flame list, Fireheart Tianyan. Emperor-ranked pharmacist. 6-star Do D's complete strength. Xu Ying turned his head and commented on Xiao Yan. This phantom has a face full of stubble, but the magnificent breath between the eyebrows is frightening, like heaven and earth. Senior, this junior is here for the cultivation method. Xiao Yan naturally did not hide his strength at all. After all, the strength of the old man in front of him had at least reached the level of Do Xian, so Xiao Yan asked directly. Business. Hey, no hurry. Do you know why I need Holy Flame to practice this fighting skill? Moving the Sky Ruler Void Shadow smiled at Xiao Yan. I don't know, but this fighting skill requires Holy Flame to be activated. This is really powerful. If it wasn't for this younger generation getting a Holy Flame by chance, I'm afraid they would be powerless. After all, Holy Flame fire can't start. Xiao Yan said, what you said is not bad. This fighting skill is the proud work of this immortal. If it is learned by some cats and dogs, wouldn't it be embarrassing? Pride. Hee. The ruler behind you is a good ruler. It is born from the condensation of flames. If the light wheel is ranked, I am afraid it can be ranked in the top 10 of the fairy weapons. Even if it is not complete now, it is enough for you to practice the moving sky ruler. Moving the sky ruler, Phantom said. It's not complete? Xiao Yan was surprised when he heard the words. What kind of secret this ancient ruler of eternal fire holds? The secret of this ruler will naturally be known to you in the future. It's too early to tell you now. Tiantianchi Phantom smiled slowly. Okay, this phantom exists for a limited time. Next, I will teach you the specific cultivation method of moving the sky ruler. After you master it, I will use the last power of this phantom to demonstrate it to you. I hope that after you learn it, don't humiliate the prestige of this fighting skill, said the illusory shadow. Okay. Xiao Yan didn't hesitate, just sat down with his legs crossed and closed his eyes. Close your eyes and calm down, and accept what I pass on to you. These are some of my experiences in cultivating the heaven-shifting ruler. The phantom of the heaven-shaking ruler said solemnly. When Xiao Yan heard the words, he immediately followed suit. Boom, boom, boom. The next moment, in Xiao Yan's mind, a huge amount of information kept pouring in. This information not only has the cultivation method of moving the sky ruler, but also has the experience of the practice of moving the sky ruler. For Xiao Yan, this was a huge fortune. Okay, that's all the way to cultivate the heavenly ruler, plus some of my experience, you can feel it yourself. After that, the shadow of the heavenly ruler stood quietly beside Xiao Yan, to protect Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan absorbed such a huge amount of information for a while. Immediately, soul power and spiritual power were simultaneously extracted, and he kept extracting this information. Then he carefully realized it in his heart. In the face of Xiao Yan's eagerness to learn, Yi Tianqi Ziying is also willing to give pointers. 1 day, 10 days, 27 days passed in an instant, and in a blink of an eye, it was 3 days before the 4th floor of the Doji Pavilion closed. Apart from the Doji Pavilion, all the disciples had already been waiting here. The 7 people who entered the deepest part of the Doji Pavilion, except for Xiao Yan, the other 6 were all the treasures of the palace who had successfully cultivated their own temples. I think that Xiao Yan's kid is probably trapped inside. If Xiao Yan hasn't come out in a month, I'm afraid he will fall inside. Among the crowd, there were many people watching the fun, and they said immediately. Second senior brother, you said, Xiao Yan, will he succeed in the cultivation of the treasure of the palace that no one has successfully cultivated since its establishment? Although Ling Xuan successfully cultivated the treasure of the palace in her own palace, but she didn't feel complacent. After all, Ling Zan knew that the fighting skills of this man's palace had not been successfully cultivated for thousands of years, and it was far more powerful than the fighting skills of their underground palace. I don't know, I think it's very possible. After all, this kid was chosen by Elder Zhu as a closed disciple. Senior brother Zhu Yuan shook his head slowly, although they did not have any deep hatred for Xiao Yan, but intuition told him that this Xiao Yan was by no means an ordinary person. Xiao Yan, you can't have anything to do, you promised to make medicinal pills for me. Qinxin on the side prayed for Xiao Yanas for Mu Yingying and a few people on the side, although there is no treasure of the Hall of Cultivation, but they all have a lot of fighting skills. Lao Mu, this Xiao Yan, should something happen? If it doesn't come out within a month, I'm afraid we will take action afterwards, and the price will be a bit high. Shang Yuan, who was in charge of opening and closing the 4th floor of the Doji Pavilion, said to Mu Shuji. Isn't it just a little price? I'll give it back to you. Mu Shuji said in a huff when he heard the words. Lao Mu, I'm not telling you, if this Xiao Yan has learned the fighting skills of your human palace, let alone that bit of fighting skills, even if it is the medicinal pills of your human palace for the past 10 years, I will pack it for you. Shang Yuan saw that Mu Shuji had a plan, and immediately made a bet. Although the two knew each other, they could not avoid some battles. Okay. Mu Shuji didn't even think about it, he simply agreed. For some reason, Mu Shuji always had an inexplicable sense of expectation for Xiao Yan. This guy entered the highest place in the Tungtian River and broke the record of the 9th level cultivation cave, so it is not surprising that he is breaking a record now. Okay, it's a deal. Seeing that Mu Shuji agreed, Shang Yuan immediately clapped his hands and said, I don't know why. Shang Yuan seems to have met Mu Shuji, a guy who is sure to lose every gamble, when he loses. I don't know what's going on these days. I have a cold, fever and ear infection. The situation is a bit bad, but I have taken medicine and injections and it is slowly getting better. It's just that the plot of the past few days has been written a little bit badly. I hope everyone is sorry. Next week it's a big outbreak after recovery _caret. End of this chapter. Continuing from the previous episode 737. On the 4th floor of the Doji Pavilion, where the treasured Doji scrolls of the Hall of Humanity are stored, the old guard in the stone hall slowly opened his eyes. It's the last day, little guy, it's almost it. After the old guard finished speaking, he suddenly felt a familiar wave from the golden scroll. This wave should be Xiao Yan. At this time, among the golden scrolls, there is an independent space. Calculate the time, it should be almost the same. Xiao Yan opened his eyes slightly and said, during the past few days, Xiao Yan has been closing his eyes and pondering, carefully comprehending the cultivation method passed on by the shadow of the moving sky ruler. The cultivation method of this moving sky ruler is quite mysterious. There is also a lot of confusion about his perception, but fortunately, there is a phantom that moves the sky to explain it, which is easy. Good. In the past 10 or so days, although you haven't mastered the moving sky ruler, you have mastered the essentials of moving the sky ruler. If so, I am relieved. There was a hint of relief in the voice. After all, before the phantom he left behind disappeared, someone inherited his fighting skills, and the phantom that moved the sky slowly smiled. Seeing this, Xiao Yan got up slightly, looked at the moving sky ruler and bowed. Until now, Xiao Yan didn't understand why this fighting skill scroll could not be opened unless it was a holy flame. The power needed to move the ruler is as strong, and it must be holy flame. Okay, this Doji Pavilion is about to be closed. In the last power of my phantom, I will cover up this Do skill for you, look at it. After Yi Tianqi Phantom finished speaking, he suddenly had an ancient aura all over his body. Diffuse out. This aura just appeared, and the ancient ruler of eternal fire behind Xiao Yan suddenly resonated with great joy, as if the power of the phantom that moved the sky was quite attractive to him. I'll lend you a ruler. The phantom of the moving ruler was suspended in the sky of the golden desert, and a monarch-like terrifying aura burst out suddenly, and then called out to Xiaoyan. When Xiaoyan saw this, he immediately took off the ancient eternal fire ruler behind him and projected it towards the phantom of the heaven-shifting ruler. Shabu Shabu. It's really good. Such a good ruler cooperates with my powerful fighting skills, and this is not the name of shifting the sky. The shadow of the shifting ruler took over the ancient ruler of eternal fire that was projected by Xiaoyan, and smiled slowly, while shifting the sky. Every time Kai Ziying touched the ancient ruler of Yuoheng, the ancient ruler of Yuoheng would resonate extremely happily, which made Xiaoyan even more curious about this ancient ruler of Yuoheng. Okay. Tian Kai Ziying snorted coldly, and then said to Xiaoyan, "Senior, please." At this time, Xiaoyan focused all his attention on the shadow of the moving sky ruler. Although he had already had a glimpse of the way to cultivate the sky-moving ruler these days, he didn't do it after all, so it was still worse. Some of the heat, now the creator of this moving sky ruler is covering up for himself. How could Xiaoyan let such a great opportunity pass? Concentrate, calm down, conditioning breath. You have to remember that at this moment, the ruler in your hand is a part of your life, you are the ruler, and the ruler is also you. Tianqi Ziying closed his eyes slightly and said to Xiaoyan. For some reason, with the phantom of moving the sky ruler, Xiaoyan clearly felt that an extremely dazzling force was poised to strike. Moving the sky ruler. At the next moment, the shadowy eyes of the moving sky ruler suddenly opened, and a breath like the awakening of a giant dragon burst out suddenly, and then the ancient ruler of the eternal fire on the palm of the virtual shadow flashed a very dazzling light. That dazzling light roared away directly at the underground golden desert, and its terrifying degree was no less than Xiaoyan's full-strength strike. Boom boom boom. The terrifying sky-moving ruler drives the extremely destructive power, forcibly blasting a huge gap in the golden desert, and even a trace of the remaining ruler force, which makes people afraid meaning. What a terrifying fighting skill. Although Xiaoyan did not feel the full power of this sky-moving ruler for the time being, Xiaoyan's soul perception clearly told himself that if such a terrifying attack hit him, "I am afraid you have to peel off your skin if you don't die." If it hits a normal 6-star Do Emperor consummation or a 7-star Do Emperor, I am afraid it can be killed instantly. Even if the attack method of this moving sky ruler is like this, the human ruler is one, and the power of destruction erupts. As for the specific secrets, it still needs your logistics and practice in the future. The illusory shadow of the moving sky ruler slowly put away the ancient ruler of different fire and eternal, and then said to Xiaoyan, "This junior has been taught." Seeing this, Xiaoyan agreed with a guilty conscience. Indeed, although the fighting skills of this saint class are quite powerful, only with more practice can they exert their power. Okay, after talking about the attack method of moving the sky ruler, let's talk about the defense method. When Xiaoyan seemed to have a sense, the virtual shadow gave Xiaoyan a strange smile. Defense method? Xiaoyan was shocked when he heard the words. According to what Mu Shuji said, isn't this heaven-shifting ruler only an attack method? When did a defensive method come out? Hee, just by looking at you like this, you know that you don't understand this fighting skill. Moving the ruler of the sky, moving the ruler of the sky, the name of moving the sky, isn't it a vain name? The power of this moving sky ruler may not be too strong in the attack, but I dare to say that this defense method, I am afraid that it can definitely be at the top of all the known holy rank fighting eyes. The virtual shadow is extremely proud. The voice is full of pride for this fighting skill. If you don't believe me, you try to attack me with all your strength. Xu Ying immediately spoke when he saw Xiaoyan's dubious attitude. Okay. Xiaoyan agreed, and then without hesitation, the bright earth yellow holy flame, the fire heart heavenly rock appeared instantly. Rock-breaking heaven burial. A fearful voice echoed in this golden desert, and Xiaoyan immediately displayed the source power of holy flame once again. This is the most tyrannical attack that Xiaoyan has mastered right now. Good boy, the mastery of Shengen is so high. But that's fine, let you know the tyranny of my fighting skills. After moving the sky ruler phantom, he smiled strangely, and then the ancient ruler of the eternal fire in his hand emitted a burst of extremely bright light. The power of boom boom boom. The ancient ruler of Yuoheng and Xiaoyan's holy flame had just touched, but they did not make a heaven-shattering sound as expected, but Xiaoyan's terrifying holy flame was touching Yuan. After the sky-shifting ruler displayed by the ancient ruler, it froze strangely. "Move the ruler! Move it to me!" Just when Xiaoyan was puzzled, the shadow of the moving sky ruler suddenly drank, and Xiaoyan's huge holy flame was instantly swallowed up by the moving sky rock and disappeared. Xiaoyan was shocked when he saw it. He was very aware of the horror of this holy flame's power. How could it be easily resolved by moving the sky ruler? Boom, boom, boom. Not long after, thousands of kilometers away from Xiaoyan and the others, a destructive mushroom cloud slowly rose up. It felt like it was his own holy flame power. Boy, do you understand? Although the heaven-shifting ruler attack is also a holy level fighting skill, it is ultimately a more terrifying means of defense. After the phantom had performed this blow, it seemed that he had lost all his vitality, and said to Xiaoyan. "So that's the case." Xiaoyan nodded in understanding. The last moment of this phantom just now gave Xiaoyan a lot of insights. It's good to understand, it's not in vain for our fate. Boy, do it yourself. After the virtual shadow finished speaking, it suddenly turned into a ray of light and dissipated in an instant, obviously using all his strength. Junior sensed Senior respectfully. Xiaoyan put away the ancient ruler of Yuo Heng, and immediately respected the place where the moving ruler disappeared. At this point, the journey to the Fighting Skill Pavilion is perfectly over. Set a small goal first, such as 1 second to remember. Shukju mobile version reading website. Continuing from the previous episode 738. Outside the Burning Incense Pavilion and the Doji Pavilion. As usual, only the 1st to 3rd floors are open throughout the day. As for the entrance to the 4th floor above the sky, the light is already dim. Obviously, today is the last day. The disciple of the sect, I'm afraid that the strong sect must take action to bring it back. Although the price paid for this kind of action is not small, it is the last resort. Among the many disciples who entered the 4th floor of the Doji Pavilion, only Xiaoyan has not come out yet, and the rest of the disciples have already left, and many of them have obtained powerful Doji exercises. He, Laomu, even looking at Xiaoyan, it seems that I can't break the nightmare of your human palace for hundreds of years. Shang Yuan said with a simple and honest smile. Shang Yuan naturally knows a little about the fighting skill scroll of the treasure of the Hall of Humanity. After all, both of them can be regarded as the top of the Burning Incense Pavilion. It's not over yet, what's the hurry? Mu Shuji also took Xiaoyan in his heart, and gave Shang Yuan a helpless look. If you can't succeed, you can't fail. It's just a fighting skill. If we lose this disciple, I'm afraid our human temple's strength will be greatly reduced. Mu Shuji secretly said in his heart. Okay, Laomu, don't worry, there is a strong guard guarding your human hall. With him, Xiaoyan will definitely not have an accident, but it's a bit strange that he hasn't come out for so long. Yuan regained his calm and said to Mu Shuji. Hopefully. Mu Shuji shook his head when he heard the words, and then stopped talking, but murmured and waiting for the disciple named Xiaoyan to perform miracles. Sigh. When Shang Yuan saw this, how could he not know what Mu Shuji was thinking? But at this last moment, it was obviously unrealistic, but Shang Yuanye did not expose it, but accompanied Mu Shuji to wait. At this time, at the feet of Mu Shuji and Shang Yuan, hundreds of disciples were already standing here. Obviously, these disciples entered the Doji Pavilion and obtained a lot of Doji exercises, and wanted to make a splash at the end of this Doji Pavilion incident. For this matter, Burning Incense Pavilion was originally not allowed, but this habit has been handed down. After the Doji Pavilion is over, all the disciples who enter the Doji Pavilion can choose to challenge their own hall or other powerhouses. If they succeed, they will instantly take the place of the challenged. For example, a disciple of the Earth Palace challenged the 3rd senior brother of the Earth Palace. If this disciple of the Earth Palace wins, he will undoubtedly say that he will replace the 3rd senior brother of the Earth Palace. The senior brothers in the Hall of Earth or the Hall of People, whether it is the place of residence or the resources for cultivation, are all enviable. Haha. Why hasn't Xiaoyan of that person's palace come out yet? It's the last day, won't it be impossible to get out? Among the crowd, there were many disciples who liked to watch the fun and cheer. Hey, who knows? Maybe it's because I failed and didn't have the face to come out and cry. No, I remember that this guy killed the twin ghost emperors in the previous points looting competition. There were different opinions in the crowd. These people are too much. The four of them, Mu Yingying, naturally came here early in the morning to wait for Xiao Yan. After all, Xiao Yan had not left for a long time, and everyone was a little worried. Don't worry about them, they're all yellow-haired children. Xiao Yi stood aside and said directly. After all, the people who just spoke were quite weak. You, the extremely figure who was talking about Xiao Yan, just now saw Xiao Yi's fierce aura emerging, and the room's expression was ugly, because they suddenly found that the pressure brought by Xiao Yi's strength was not inferior to their own sect. Elder, watch your mouth, Xiao Yi snorted coldly, and Raijin took back his breath. When those disciples who were talking about Xiao Yan heard the words, they were shocked and stopped talking about Xiao Yan. Hey, do you know? It is said that Qinxin from the Heavenly Palace has obtained the treasure of the Heavenly Palace this time. Xinya 81 Zhang Wian Wang U, Kai 8, approximately 1 ZS, Coem. That kind of beauty and such a huge strength, I am afraid that it will shine in the next sect competition. Heavenly Palace? Isn't that a temple with only 7 people? Why is Qinxin from the Heavenly Palace? I always thought she belonged to our earthly palace. You don't know about this, Qinxin is like the disciple of the Deputy Hall Master today, so… Hee, what is this? It is said that several senior brothers in our underground palace have also mastered the treasures of our underground palace. I am afraid that this time the sect competition will be a battle of dragons and tigers. Among the crowd some disciples kept saying, I can't believe that the disciples in the Heavenly Palace and the Earth Palace have all succeeded in their cultivation. Although the treasures of their second hall did not expect the human hall to be powerful, but they can successfully cultivate, the strength of these people should not be underestimated. Next to Mu Feng and the others were the named disciples of the original human hall. The 3 named disciples had also been waiting here for a long time. The 3 of them have entered the place where the treasures of the People's Palace are stored on the 4th floor of the Doji Pavilion, but with their strength, they have no way to cultivate, and this is why they failed. This time they came here, mainly to see that Xiao Yan is doing a miracle. Is this treasure of the palace really so difficult? Mu Yingying shook her head in disapproval and said, looking at the stone gate of the Doji Pavilion in the sky, suddenly a familiar aura slowly emanated. He's fine, he's back. The next moment, Mu Yingying's eyes flashed with a look of light, and then she cast a look of anticipation at the Shiman of the Doji Pavilion. Because Mu Yingying possesses holy flame in her body, she is naturally very sensitive to Xiao Yan, who also possesses holy flame. Someone came out. Someone in the crowd said something, and the noisy ground suddenly regained its calm. The eyes of hundreds of disciples were all locked on the stone gate, as if they were all waiting for a result. This breath. It's Xiao Yan. However, this Xiao Yan's aura is more powerful than when he entered the Doji Pavilion before. Ling Zan said slightly, Hee, the soldiers come to block the water and cover the soil. I would like to see if the rumored fighting skills in the Hall of Humanity are really as powerful as they are rumored to be. I hope this kid won't let me down. If he really succeeds, it's worth my shot, otherwise. Next to Ling Zan, the second senior brother Zhu Yuan of the Earth Hall also stared at Shimandeo on the 4th floor of the Doji Pavilion. Second senior brother, even if Xiao Yan succeeds, you, a 7-star Do Emperor, would challenge a 6-star Do Emperor. Ling Zan immediately said with dissatisfaction after hearing this. The 6-star Do Emperor and the 7-star Do Emperor are extremely huge. Hee, these are all things to talk about later, let's take a look and then talk about it. I believe that besides me, there are many others who want to challenge Xiao Yan. After Zhu Yuan finished speaking, he smiled strangely. Xiao Yan can't be blamed for this, after all, there is too much light on Xiao Yan's body. Killing the twin ghost emperors in the points plundering competition, obtaining the baptism of the Xuanling Emperor Pond, cultivating the cave at the 9th level in the Tungtian River, breaking records. All these are enough to make Xiao Yan the object that all the disciples of the Burning Incense Pavilion want to step on. And just as the thoughts of the hundreds of disciples below were surging, in the sky, the stone gate opened gently, and a man familiar with a heavy ruler slowly appeared in everyone's sight. Ask for tickets. The time in November is also free. It just so happens that the second dimension has a category, and the second dimension fans update the ranking. I plan to rush in November. At this point, November will basically be guaranteed 3 times a day, unless there are special circumstances, and outbreaks will occur from time to time. It's the same 3 shifts today, around 8 o'clock in the evening, the 4th shift if I can figure it out, and tomorrow's shift if it doesn't work. End of this chapter. Continuing from the previous episode 739. Xiao Yan. It sure is Xiao Yan. This Xiao Yan has only come out now. Shouldn't he have already mastered the fighting skills of their human hall? The stone gate just opened, Xiao Yan's figure suddenly appeared, and then all the disciples kept talking. Xinya 81 Zhang Huiyan Wang Yu, Kai 8, approximately 1 ZS, Ko M, Hu Hu. Fortunately, I caught up. The figure outside Shimon smiled slowly. Finally, he practiced in the scroll of moving the sky ruler. He came out at the last moment, and then greeted the old guard, and then hurried to the exit, but fortunately it was still too late. What's the situation? Xiao Yan had just returned to the burning incense pavilion when he saw below him. Hundreds of disciples were already waiting here, and their eyes were all fixed on him. Xiao Yangguang knew the people here, including the 3 leaders who were named disciples of the Hall of Humanity, the people from Wujuju, including the 2nd senior brother Lingxuan of the Hall of Earth, Ling Yunguanglu and others. At this time, everyone stared at themselves with a very special look, as if they were looking at monsters. Hee. It's good to be back. Xiao Yan just appeared, and Mu Shuji immediately got up and came to Xiao Yan's side. A feeling of relief suddenly spread. Deputy Hall Master. When Xiao Yan saw Mu Shuji, he immediately expressed his gratitude to him. If it wasn't for the guidance that Mu Shuji gave him before, I am afraid that he would not be able to find the specific details of the treasure of the Rendian Palace. Location. After all, these people who are as powerful as Mu Yingying did not find the location of the treasure of their human palace. From this, it can be seen that the 4th floor of the so-called Fair Fighting Skills Pavilion obviously still has some moisture. Boy, how is it? Seeing that Xiao Yan had just appeared, Shang Yuan hurriedly asked. After all, this was related to the bet between him and Mu Shuji, so he naturally kept it in his mind. Following Shang Yuan's inquiry, the disciples below suddenly held their breath, because at this time they also wanted to know whether Xiao Yan succeeded or not. Fortunately not to be humiliated. Faced with the expectations of so many senior brothers and the 2 deputy hall masters, Xiao Yan immediately did not shy away, and laughed directly. What? Your kid actually succeeded? Am I right? Shang Yuan was surprised when he heard the words. He naturally knew the reason why no one had successfully cultivated the treasures of the Palace of Humanity for thousands of years. So now that Xiao Yan said that he had succeeded, he was immediately incredulous. Well, I have indeed solved the problem in the treasure of the human palace. Xiao Yan explained directly to Shang Yuan's question. Damn, it's really bad luck. Shang Yuan saw Xiao Yan said this, and he couldn't say anything at once, so he could only lower his head secretly, heartbroken about his bet with Mu Shuji. However, Shang Yuan knew that if what Xiao Yan said was true, I am afraid that this Xiao Yan would be the most outstanding person in the Hall of People and even the entire burning incense pavilion for thousands of years. Is it really successful? Mu Zuzi's body suddenly shook when he heard the words. No one knows the tyranny of this heaven-shifting ruler fighting technique better than Mu Shuji, but although this fighting technique is tyrannical, it has many problems. The reason why no one has succeeded in cultivation for thousands of years. Vice Palace Master, it is indeed a success. Faced with Mu Zuzi's disbelief, Xiao Yan immediately exited. What? This Xiao Yan actually succeeded? This is simply a monster. Just as Xiao Yan's voice fell, the group of disciples below were immediately surprised. Although most of them don't know the treasure of this man's palace, they know that since the establishment of Burning Incense Pavilion, no one has successfully cultivated this fighting skill. Xiao Yan actually said that he has successfully cultivated. The shocking movement brought by it was no less than Xiao Yan's previous record breaking in Tungtian. It actually succeeded? Although he really wanted to hear the news from Xiao Yan's mouth, but now that he heard it, everyone's hearts were invariably puzzled. Among them, Ling Zan said with big eyes. Is it really successful? Although Xiao Yan has a lot of secrets on his body, I'm afraid their fighting skills in the human palace will not be resolved so easily. Wang Chen and Xiao Yan had fought each other, so he naturally knew that Xiao Yan contained other secrets, and immediately said, It's hard to say. After all, there are hundreds of disciples here. If Xiao Yan wants to cheat, it would be too unrealistic, but if it is true that the cultivation is successful, I don't believe it. Xingyu also maintains doubts about Xiao Yan. Attitude. It's good to be successful. Xiao Yan, you are the pride of my temple. Mu Shuji said with tears in his eyes. As the deputy hall master of the human palace, he naturally knows the power of moving the sky ruler, but he also hopes that his disciples will succeed in their cultivation, so as to strengthen the momentum of their human palace. Vice Palace Master, why are there so many people today? Could it be that there is something important? Xiao Yan asked in confusion. That's not the case, it's mainly because our Fenxiang pavilion has an unwritten rule. Mu Shuji suddenly laughed strangely the next moment. Unwritten rules? When Xiao Yan heard this, he immediately felt that something was wrong. Yes, no. Anyone who enters the 4th floor of the Doji Pavilion will do their best to challenge the same sect. As long as they take action within a reasonable range, the sect will not interfere. So I guess that the light on your body is too dazzling, and these people want to use you as their trial stone. Mu Shuji said, I see. But if you want to use me as a trial stone, it would be too whimsical. Xiao Yan said very proudly. Deputy Pavilion Master Mu Shuji, since the Doji Pavilion is over, I think we should have the right to challenge junior brother Xiao Yan. Below, a good-looking man spoke slightly, staring at Xiao Yan. Obviously this man intends to be the first bird. Haha, UU reading link to www.ukanshu.com is natural. Mu Shuji heard the words and did not refute immediately. After all, this kind of thing has become an unwritten rule, and it is not good for Mu Shuji to interfere more. Deputy Pavilion Master, I think, I should have the full power to refuse this kind of thing, right? Facing the question of the figure below, Xiao Yan asked Mu Shuji. You do have the right to refuse. Mu Shuji said, Haha. Can't you escape the news? In front of so many brothers and sisters, you keep saying that you have learned the treasures of your human palace. If you back down, I'm afraid there is a lot of water in your words. The man below said nothing. Xiao Yan said affectionately, I think you misunderstood. I don't want to refuse, I just want to know if I have the right, and it just so happens that I also want to try my own strength. Xiao Yan faced the male lead's doubts and said directly, this man's strength in the middle stage of the 6-star Do Emperor is not too good. Xiao Yan has not taken it to heart. After all, Xiao Yan's strength has reached the 6-star Do Emperor consummation. There is no disciple in the human hall stronger than himself. As for the Hall of Earth, there are only a few people who are stronger than him, and Xiao Yan has never paid attention to the others. I know why you gathered here today. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Let's go up together. The next moment, Xiao Yan in the sky slowly landed on the ground, stretched his waist, and then said to the fellow apprentices, Ask for tickets. End of this chapter.